welcome back everybody, your typical bull here, and it's been a while since I posted a like actual kind of pre-recorded video. Most of my stuff's been live, been really busy, but thank you guys for sticking with me. So I am going to start a new series on this channel where we go over some of the biggest movers of the day and how I found them, how you could have found them, how you could have gotten involved with them. Because a lot of people, they go look at a chart and they see, holy crap, if I had just noticed this, I could have made $600–700 on 100 shares. Well, a lot of people don't know how to notice that, and then when they do notice it, they get too scared and they don't really actually even know how to get involved, because something that runs 50% of the pre-market, a lot of the time it doesn't run another 100% or 50% in the actual market. So we're going to go over some things, and we're going to just basically how I create my low flow watch lists and how I get involved in these things. So we're already looking at ATXI here. So how did I find this one? So what I was looking at here is every morning I go and I look at the pre-market top movers, and I showed you guys how to make this in an earlier video, and I will probably ping it somewhere on the screen here. But anyway, ATXI was popping up here, and this morning during the pre-market it was a volume of, I don't know, 500K, maybe over a little over 1 million. So that was pretty interesting in the pre-market. And when I first noticed it, so I go through here and I find the things that have moved the most, and I create a watch list from this. And I also check the fan scanner that I showed you guys before. But there's a few things that I was looking at this morning, and I'll go over that watch list before I get into the ones that actually did something. So I was looking at ILAG, and basically these things on the list here: ILAG, ATXI, ARDS, AQST, EQ, ATXI, and S Pro is one I want to talk about from a couple of days ago that popped up, but it wasn't on the list today. GROV I added later, and GROV I found that one by looking at a relative volume scanner that I created on Thinkorswim that I have also showed you guys how to create and how to make. And if you haven't looked at that, you should. Basically, that one popped up on the relative volume scanner down here, and I just clicked on it and I was looking at it and I was scanning the news. So the most important thing with these low floats is obviously going to be the catalyst. So first thing you do, you see that this guy, I noticed this right around in this area here, it popped up to 580 and it's pulling back right in the pre-market. So I looked at it, I checked the news, and I couldn't really find anything very interesting as far as news go, but the volume is there. And the float on this guy is under 1 million. So that in itself can be a catalyst, right? When the float is something is only 685,000 shares, if it starts moving, it can really, really, really move. So this pulled back into the pre-market, and at this point, I'm still not comfortable trading this here at 495.04 because, you know, that's $4.99, and by the time you get confirmation, it's $5.25, and you've got a resistance here at $5.80 that's going to be probably pretty scary to look at first. So I'm watching this in the pre-market, and then finally, at about a few minutes closer to pre-market, it starts making new highs right before the market opens. So at this point is when I kind of am getting really interested in getting involved, because it is showing the tendency to make some new highs, and it has really good volume and is still picking up and still picking up. So right at market open, we pulled down here on a 1 minute chart, but we're not holding underneath of any of these averages. Every time we flag into these averages, we're just popping back off of them. So at this point here on the top is really kind of where I want to get involved, somewhere between this, anywhere between around this area and this area, anticipating a breakout. So now what I have is a very, very clear level of stop right in here around 550, right? And we've got a lot of heavy bidders on the tape here. So around 550, I've got a good stop. I have really defined my risk at this point, and then it pops over and breaks out on high volume here. So now at this point, we're at 640 already from entry at 580. So now all we're doing is riding this to a point where we're comfortable with profits, right? So at 640, we start to trade sideways a little bit. So at this point here, 650 around in this area, I am going to be scaling down my position size. I might even sell half. So anywhere 570 to 650 is going to be a really good trade, right? Already, just in that, it's a really good trade. So if I have 100 shares at this point, I'm selling half of those shares. So let's just assume entry right around 580. So we're going to sell half of those here around 650. So that's what, 70 cents there, 70-cent profit already in the bag on, let's say, 100 shares. So now at this point, I'm just riding this until momentum stops. And at this time here, it halted once at 810. Then it halts again at 950. At this point, at this 950 point, when it's halted for the second time, I'm getting out regardless of what happens, because you don't really want to be holding through these halts, because anything can happen at that point. You get lucky past the first halt, right? So, and that's a stupid good trade from 580 all the way up to 9 something, right? And that then it halts for the third time on the downside. So at that point, it's really imperative that you exit these positions, because a lot of the times this thing will just wreck down after a first halt. You got 2, 3 of them here, 2 to the upside and 1 to the downside. And that is at this point somewhere you really want to get out. But volume on these halts is really good. And if you notice here, when we're looking at the volume, we see that the red candles versus the green candle volume is extremely one-sided, right? So the buyers are definitely in complete and total control here. So at this point, we're totally out. But there is other entries a lot of the times on these, and this one does offer another entry. So we sell down here to 766, and this first pop, you can see there's not really another reason to get in here, because if you're looking at your volume candles, you know, I mean, like, just pay attention to this stuff. There is no volume at this point on the buy side. Most of the volume here is on the sell side. So now what we're looking for is a confirmation of a continued move up, and we get that here, right at 840. There's another big volume spike on the upside. You can see it here. So now again, we have defined a risk. These lows here at 730, and on this big volume spike, we see we start to pop through. We can get in anywhere between 8 and 830 here. So now what we're looking for is high of day to trade to and reject, and that would be a reason to exit, or high of day to trade through and make a new high, which would transfer this into sort of a momentum style trade where we sell half at high of day and then look for weakness on the tape or weakness in the stock in general to sell the last half of this position. So this continues to trade up 877, 950. Here's high of days where you're selling half of your position. And then we trade up to 1040. And then you get this huge red candle here all the way back down to this average, right? So $9 is where I would exit my last half of this position. And then again, past that, this trade I wouldn't take because we've already flagged on this twice. So at this point, I would be completely finished with this stock. And for the rest of the day, we trade flat. And basically, that is the, one, two, probably even 3 times you could have gotten involved. If you missed this first involvement here, there's one more entry you could take. Here is a flat top at 625, and then this huge volume spike comes in here. You break over the top of this flat again. We have defined risk, and there's another place you can get involved with this trade. So on this breakout above here, flat top flags down into this 9-day average, volume spikes, breaks out again. So around 650 to 590 would be the stop, and then get involved here as well. And then, so that's basically the trades on ATXI today. And then ILAG, of course, was another one today. This one didn't really follow through like it should have, but if you were watching this in the pre-market, there is a couple of opportunities here. Same thing, sort of a flag here on volume. And this one, honestly, I didn't get involved in this one until after the market was already open. It sold off all the way to pre-market, which in itself makes me not very interested in taking any trades here. But I can see it starts consolidating, and then it keeps trading over here and around in this area here at 244. I get involved because now I have stop losses underneath this consolidation lows, and I'm in here at 244. This one does not actually follow through like it should, but I ended up selling half of my position here on the breakout of 260, and then barring that, I'm looking at a 1 minute chart, I'm looking at a 5 minute chart, and I'm looking at several things here. And while I'm looking at a 5 minute chart, it's above this. Oh, we skipped several levels here. This breakout, it's literally not doing anything at this point. It's just consolidating between 250 and 260 level here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get out of my position, because when you're trading these momentum stocks, you want to see actual momentum. You don't want to see a whole lot of consolidation. Worst case scenario is it breaks out and you can get back in above these highs here, but this one actually does not follow through as it should. So at this point, when it starts consolidating, I just took my 5% gains and got out of there, right? So sold half at 260. I think I sold the last half at around 255, 256 ish, because over 250 I was bullish, but then it starts consolidating, and at this point I'm just not very interested anymore in being in this ticker. And as you can see, it's still consolidating here in these levels, but there could be an opportunity later in the day for another entry. But what I would want to see for this to happen is a breakout over the top of these highs here on strong volume. But as we can see currently, it's just consolidating, and the volume is just steady tapering down as people lose more and more interest in being here trading this stock. So the other one that I wanted to talk about was it was GROV. GROV is the one that I found earlier in the day. This popped up on my relative volume scanner around this point here. So this one actually popped on a 5 minute relative volume scanner right in around here, and I'm looking at it, and it's trading over $4. And first thing I look at is the catalyst. There was the catalyst I'm looking at was they're expanding their retail stores like by a whole lot, right? So that's pretty bullish news. And first thing I do is that I'm looking at a daily chart here, and I see that this has just recently just been hammered down from 705 all the way down to 260. And if you can see, the volume here today is just huge compared to its normal volume, right? So that in itself is good. So we have a potential profit target here of $7 if this thing really takes off. The float on this one is not terrible, but it is under 20 million, and that's not bad. Like, these low float stocks can trade 20 million shares like in a snap of a finger. So that is good. So now I'm interested here. So what I'm looking at while this is happening, right, is it's trading on low volume. I'm seeing these green candles, and it pops above the up here on extremely large volume. So I'm jumping in this guy at about 358 here above VWAP. So I have a good stop. 330-ish is a good stop, right? So we've got all this consolidation down here. We've got buyers on the tape around this 332, 350 level, and then those buyers start stepping up, and it trades higher, and it starts consolidating. I'm still fine here because I'm actually in profit. And here at $4-ish, I'm selling half of it. And then it pops to $4. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I sold this. I sold half of these at $4.40, and then it started to trade down lower. And then I sold the other half at $4.20. So that's really the only opportunity there is to get involved in this one, is this area here around 358, or this pullback here. You see the huge volume, and then there's a pullback down to this 50 average on another very large volume spike that starts picking up much higher. So again, around 358 here, or around 363 this second time, and opportunity up to 445. At this 445 point, I'm watching this on a 1 minute chart, and it just literally got wrecked. Everybody started hitting the bids and selling all their position at this 445 area. There was a huge seller on the tape of like 40,000 shares. So at that point, I'm really not interested in holding this anymore. I'm going to take the gains that I made. So on 100 shares, even from, let's just say you took the worst entry at 365 to 445, that's 75, 85, 95, 4, that's a well over, it's about $80 profit per 100 shares on that trade there, give or take. So anyway, those are the tickers that I was watching today as far as low floats go, and those are the reasons to be involved. And anyway, yeah, so I guess this is kind of like a trade review of my trades, as well as this is what happened and this is what I should have done. So maybe it can be helpful to you guys, maybe not, who knows, let's see. If you do enjoy this, please smash the like button and hit the subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.